Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Explode, your expert biz show. I'm here today with the one and only one of our GTeX lifetime members, Colin Symington Bailey. How you doing, Colin?
Absolutely awesome, buddy. How you doing?
I am incredibly well. Thank you very much. Today is we are going to talk about the art of balanced living. I'm really excited about that because definitely, probably, I'm one of the less balanced people that I know. I mean, I worked on it, but it's not definitely something that comes natural to me. I don't know if that came natural to you, but we're going to talk about that in a moment.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get started, tell us a bit more about how did you get into all this? How did you get into teaching other people about the art of balanced living?
I think it's essentially why most of us do what we do, in terms of the fact that we've encountered something that perhaps we weren't necessarily enjoying at the time. I hail from a background of retail and hospitality, and one day I just woke up and realized I'd committed 26 consecutive Christmases to the gods of retail and hospitality, and not enough to my family. So that was time to hallelujah, time to wake up and realize that there is actually something more out there than the daily grind, and particularly with hospitality, which I know you've had some experience in.
Yep.
The hours, the family life, it just wasn't there. It was affecting my health, my relationships, my overall well-being. And through my personal development journey, I've come to realize that actually there is a balance. You can have a job that you enjoy. You can commit to a career, to a passion, and be fulfilled in doing what it is that you want to do, but still have that balance with the family life and the health and the well-being alongside it. But unfortunately, it took me 26 years to come to that realization. So I'm here to cut that journey a little bit shorter for our listeners.
So where was the moment you said? I think that in every story there is a moment where is the enough is enough moment.
Yeah.
What specifically happened to you that made you say enough is enough? Some things are gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you say, you've got an option. It's when you hit that crossroads and you realize that you haven't got an option, and that, as you said, enough is enough. Now, mine was quite a few years ago now. Mine was actually with my previous relationship, my fiance at the time, who's the mother of my first daughter, when she actually told me I was married to my job. And I had to make a decision. It was either my job, my career, or the family. Now, as I'm sure you can appreciate, the reason I was married to my job was to provide the best for my family. My incentive for working the hours I was doing was to make the money to give the family the best that I could provide.
Yeah.
But it's more than the presence in terms of the financial rewards. It's about the presence in terms of being present.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I realized, that presence is no substitute for presence. And admittedly, as you can tell from the conversation, it was a previous relationship. So that relationship ended. And not because of the job, but that was a major contributing factor. And I realized something had to change. I wasn't prepared to continue to make the same mistakes and sacrifice future relationships. I met the woman of my dreams, who's now the woman of my reality. I'm fortunate to call her my wife. And I wasn't prepared to make the same mistake with her. And I realized something had to change. But it was only through my personal development and the awareness of different stress reduction techniques and mindfulness and the awareness of my situation that I realized that there was actually an alternative. I was conditioned to believe that we had to work and work hard, and that was the best way to earn a living and therefore support my family. I didn't realize that there was an alternative. And I now have that realization and that awareness, and I'm here to share it with other people, that there is a way out, there is an alternative. There is hope. There is a light at the end of that tunnel.
And why do you think is so difficult for people to create that balance? Because right now in our society, there is a big issue, not only if you are an employee, but also if you're running your own business. Actually, it's even easier to get married to the business instead of and forgetting that actually there is a life out there. And I remember when I started, no holidays, nothing, working 20 hours a day, And is literally thanks to my wife that last year when we got married, she said, "No, you can't keep going that way.
Yeah.
You're gonna burn yourself to the ground, and we are not going to enjoy any time together." So for me, it took me again a long time to come to this balance, to come to this awareness. So, what do you think is so difficult for people?
I think it's similar to what you've already alluded to. It's knowing that there's something or someone out there bigger than ourselves. When we realize that what our actions are doing is impacting other people,
Yeah.
in your case, your wife, in my case, my ex-fiance, and now my wife, then it gives us a greater motivation, a greater incentive to go out there and do something different. But in my days, particularly when I started out in retail and hospitality, and perhaps in your situation, when you're on your own, living on your own, and you're coming home at 10 o'clock at night and eating that ready meal and then falling into bed and waking up at stupid o'clock to go back to work again, your actions don't impact anybody else.
Yeah.
So they don't have that knock-on effect or that ripple effect. And we don't tend to care about it because we know that we need that money because that's what we're conditioned to do. We believe that we have to work hard and earn the money and have a decent living. It's the way we're conditioned. It's what everybody else is doing. The difference is we don't have to do what everybody else is doing. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. We need to realize what it is that makes us happy, but in doing that, also what makes our circle around us happy. And what I realized, particularly in the early days, was I didn't have a circle of people around me. I didn't have a reason to pursue hobbies or interests with anybody else. I didn't have a social circle. It was me and work. And when you're working 20-hour days, in fact, my record was a 36-hour shift. When you're doing those kind of hours, you know, your social circle falls out the window.
Yeah.
Once you start to realize that other people depend on you and that, you know, you can have an influence on them and you want to enjoy spending time with them rather than coming home and collapsing, then you start to realize that actually you start to look for options and alternatives. But I think we're conditioned to believe that hard work is the way. And we all want to provide the best for our people, whether it's down to our biology and neuroscience in terms of the hunter-gatherer mindset. I still believe we're here to look after and provide. And biologically, that's what we tend to do. So we just get on with it. We're not conditioned to speak our minds. We're conditioned to be hard, you know, stoic, and just to give the best of ourselves in terms of what we think we need to provide for our families. But in hindsight, both through my experience with my father, who's no longer with us, and with my previous relationships, being present in that relationship is a lot more important than contributing to it through doing 36-hour shifts.
It made me think about when I was managing a Michelin star restaurant and when I was working in the catering industry. I were going to these huge events and it'd take 24 hours to set up and then the other 24 hours to deliver and the other 24 hours to come back and put everything down. And yeah, you're right. I didn't have anyone else to take care about. But I think that what do you think now happens? Because there are now a lot of families as well that even though people have other people to take care about when they're not themselves anymore, it's not just by themselves anymore, then they are still in that grind. They are still playing out the same life that they would play if they were by themselves.
Yeah.
So what dynamics are playing at that moment?
I think it's important to basically follow the advice of Simon Sinek, who says start with why. Once you know what your why is, once you have that motive, once you have that reason, and if that reason is external or greater than yourself, then you're a lot more committed to carry through. But the problem as well, particularly in retail and hospitality with the hours and the physicality, is that you get built into that grind. You get built into that routine, to that monotony. You start to work the longer hours. Your health starts to deteriorate. You're not eating the proper meals. I mean, even though I'm a qualified chef, it's a lot easier to put a macro meal in and, you know, you haven't got the time to cook, let alone eat. You're not getting your 7 hours of sleep a night, and recommended 8, but the minimum is 7. And in fact, there's a survey that was conducted in 2007, the Whitehall 2 survey. People who dropped their sleeping patterns from 7 hours to 5 or fewer were twice as likely to die, particularly from cardiovascular problems. So we get into a rut. We don't have the energy through the day, so we eat the sugars, we drink the fizzy cola, the energy drinks, the caffeine. We keep trying to supplement our energy with external sources rather than having the abundance of energy that's naturally within us, because we're not having the sleep. 47% of people lie awake at night worrying about work and the events of the day. So when you're not getting that decent amount of sleep, you're not waking up at 100%. You're not giving your all, and you're going to work technically drunk. You know, when you're sleep fatigued, it's the same as being drunk. So you're making the wrong decisions. You're not being as productive at work. You know, the to-do list is just building up and escalating. So you put more pressure on yourself. You start to worry more. You get more stressed. You come home at the end of the day and you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve because your prioritization is out the window. You're coming home in a really, really foul mood, and you take it out on your family. Or if you have got any time to spare, which, as you know, you probably don't, you're in a foul mood with no energy, and all you want to do is eat and go to sleep. I remember the last thing I wanted to do on Christmas mornings was wake up and open presents. I just wanted to spend 24 hours in bed. But it's about being more present and being more mindful of the choices that you make during your day and how little tweaks can influence your day. Being more productive, eating healthily, sleeping properly, you know, being more present when you walk in the door and leaving work at work. Little tweaks like that can make major differences and major influences in your personal life. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's just about following simple practices and techniques, and through a level of awareness of how stress works and reducing stress through prioritization, workload, time management, task management, being more present and having that level of energy to engage more when you do come home at night. Because that's what we do while we do, or while we do what we do. We come home to spend the time with our families, not to collapse in a heap with a ready meal.
Exactly, absolutely. How important are thoughts in playing this game in the art of balanced living? How important are thoughts in there?
I would say it's 100% of the game. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that we become what we think about all day long. Tony Robbins says that your dominant thoughts predict your reality. So in essence, what we're thinking is what we generate in our lives. If we wake up in the morning and we think, oh, today's going to be a really bad day. I could use stronger language, but I'm not. Then, you know, it's going to be a bad day. You wake up in the morning energized with some decent morning techniques. And obviously there's many different routines which work differently for different people. We're all individuals. But when you face each day, as Brendan Burchard says, winning the morning, when you go into that morning full of vigor, vitality, and energy and enthusiasm, what kind of day do you have? It's all down to your dominant thoughts, the mindset. And yes, we know because of the day that we had yesterday that we're not going to have a great day tomorrow, but it's a choice that we make. We choose and determine what kind of day we're going to have. We determine what we're going to achieve in that day. We choose whether we plan that day out and have a greater sense of prioritization and therefore productivity, or whether we spend the day looking at Facebook or watching interviews, for example, God forbid. But at the end of the day, we make a choice as to what we do with our time and how we spend our time and what we do with our time. So your mindset has a massive influence on that. In fact, your subconscious mind is attributable to at least 90% of our actions. So it's important to be very wary and mindful of what it is, A, that we're thinking, but have that intention of what it is that we want to achieve as well.
So we are talking about the mindset, we are talking about thoughts, we are talking about the way we create our own reality. And I completely agree with you when talking about the morning. Morning is such an important moment of the day, and for years, that has been my biggest struggle, if I have to be completely honest, because, you know, you find all these successful people. If you want to be successful, you need to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you need to go sleep at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm not like that, because I also coming from the catering industry, you know, you go sleep around 3 o'clock in the morning. So
if you're lucky,
right? And my normal, just already going to sleep at midnight, is already a win for me, even after so many years that I stopped working in that environment. But then it kept rolling into my business, because then I was sleeping in the morning and working at night. But then what happened, I felt that as soon as I was waking up, because it was kind of late in the day, you know, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I was just rushing into the day.
Yeah.
And I didn't allow that buffer that time to win that morning. To do my meditation, or
Yeah. Yeah.
to do that workout, or to prioritize what I'm going to do during the day. And so I felt that all my day was falling apart.
Yeah.
I, I,
Definitely.
I could just achieve because that's how I am. I get on with stuff, I get things done, but I was getting done the wrong things.
Yeah.
So-
And what you'll find as well is that because that's the way that you're habitually wired, that's what you do on a regular basis, you achieve and you believe that you're achieving. But the question I'd ask is how much more would you be capable of achieving if you won the morning?
Absolutely.
If, for example, you planned your day the night before. And what's interesting as well is that if you go to bed knowing what you plan to achieve the following day, your mind is more at rest, and therefore you're likely to get a deeper quality of sleep because you're not sitting there worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow because it's already planned out in your mind. So not only are you getting more sleep, but a better night's sleep. When you wake up in the morning, you're not running around like the headless chicken trying to put everything together. It's already in place. It's already organized. And as you said, you're winning the morning. It's a lot less reactive and you're back in control. And you don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, Robin Sharma advocates the 5 a.m. club. But essentially what I would recommend is it's the small changes because you can't make lifestyle changes as one giant leap. It's overwhelming and you're not conditioned to accept those. It's the small steps. As Lao Tzu says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But what I would recommend, and essentially the underlying theme of Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club, is get up 1 hour earlier.
Yeah.
So whatever time you plan on getting up, it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. If you get up at 10 a.m., for example, as you said, get up at 9 and spend 20 minutes doing relaxation or stretching exercises, 20 minutes of a light workout, 20 minutes journaling, mindfulness exercises, and then 20 minutes reading or developing or growing. Already you're going into the morning accelerating rather than being in a constant state of reaction. You're owning the morning and you're in control. And you tend to find it's a lot easier to get a seat at Starbucks or at the gym or whatever it is you choose to do because everyone else is already sleeping.
It is. In fact, right now my goal, because we were discussing it with my wife recently, and my goal is to wake up at 7 o'clock every morning. Now, there are some mornings I can make it, other mornings becomes more struggling, but my goal, instead of making this unrealistic expectation, it was to say, okay, if generally I'm waking up at 9, just already going at 7 is a big step.
Yeah.
So then I create the time, but as you suggested, for me, is mainly for creating that time to get mindfulness done, to get my journaling done, to plan the day the night before and go into the day already knowing what I was doing, what I'm going to be doing. And these are things that I've heard for many, many years, but it's just been recently a couple of months that I took it seriously, and it's just like it's part of my life now. I don't miss a day without it, and I found just literally in 2 months my life has changed completely. The business has faced the highest growth level that we have ever had.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I have time to do everything I want. That's the other thing. I feel I have time to do everything I want. I have time to go to my basketball games. I have time to watch my NBA playoffs. I have time to play the didgeridoo and grow the business and spend time with my wife and grow the company. Just because
it's the balance. You can have it all. Yeah.
So, a question for you now, Colin, is I know that you have, there is a zebra behind you. And I can see, for those of you that are listening, you might not be seeing that, but then you can go on our blog where you can see the full video of this interview. And there is a zebra behind Colin's face. Now, I know that a zebra is a significant animal for you.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of a zebra for you?
All right, there's a couple of parts to that. The first part is I'm originally from South Africa, so I grew up around a lot of zebras. Not only is it easier to cross the road for you guys over here in the UK, but at the end of the day, they're a very common animal back in South Africa. But the reason I use it is not only to sort of tie in with my roots and my history, but what a lot of people don't realize is that, like human fingerprints, no two zebras will have the same stripe pattern. So each and every single zebra has a unique stripe pattern. They're all unique and individual, and no two zebra are the same, just like no two fingerprints. But what's important to note as well, and what's interesting, is that the same thing that sets each individual zebra apart is also what they use in terms of their defense mechanism, in terms of safety and numbers. So when a predator is hunting a zebra, they tend to herd together and then run together as a herd. I don't know if you can see this on the video. It looks a bit weird. But when the zebra are herding together, it's just a mass, a blur of black and white stripes. And that potential predator can't distinguish or isolate an individual zebra, which makes it a lot harder to target that prey. And therefore, through safety and numbers, the zebras can survive. And that's, I'm glad you mentioned it or brought it up. And that's a reason why I like the zebra, because it relates quite well to us in life. We tend to bury our unique identifying characteristics into a sea of conformity. We tend to hide amongst other people so as not to stand out, so as not to be different. We want to conform. But what Jim Hightower said is that the opposite of courage is not cowardice, it's conformity. Even a dead fish can go with the flow. So the question I always ask, and that's why I have the zebra, and normally I have my little stuffed zebra and I have it as a bit of a prop, bit like a didgeridoo, but a lot more transportable. But what type of zebra are you? Do you use your own unique identifying characteristics to differentiate yourself from the crowd and be your own unique, authentic you? Or do you choose to blur into a sea of mediocrity and conformity through safety and numbers? So that's why the zebra is important to me. And what type of zebra are you? That's the question I ask.
I want to leave a moment of reflection here because it was deep. It was powerful. It's powerful. A lot of time is easy to take the easy decision. And sometimes is interesting, even when you are, I mean, a lot of people are listening right now. They are experts, they are coaches, they are speakers, they are getting out there. And it's easy to do what everyone else is doing. Not to stand out, not to create your own unique image. For example, if you start when you will start following Colin and Colin's work, you will see the video that he released on YouTube and on Facebook. They have a very unique style. Like, as soon as I scroll the feed, I know that this is Colin's video, even without in a fraction of a second, because I know that no one else does the video as Colin does, and that's something that is important to see and apply this principle in every single aspect of the business, in every single aspect of your life. Because not just if you're an expert or a speaker, just because you speak doesn't mean that you're standing out. Actually, you're conforming to all the others that are speaking. So then what are you going to do to stand out in your business and in your life? So thank you for mentioning this. I have a question for you because recently you became a #1 Amazon best-selling author. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the name of the book again?
And thank you to those who bought the book, by the way. So.
You're welcome, man. I got.
I didn't buy yours. You got yours free.
I got my signed copy. Well, I actually bought the during the launch. I bought mine.
Okay.
I bought the online one. Haha.
I'll let you off.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, what's the title of the book?
It's called "What Do You Think," which is essentially it's the everyday guide to your best self. Now, the title is broken down on 3 different levels. The first one is a lot of us are seeking approval from other people. So one of the most commonly asked questions for those of you conformist zebras is, what do you think? So we're always asking someone else's advice. We're always seeking somebody else's approval as to whether what we should be doing is what we should be doing. So what do you think? Should I be doing it? The next one is, well, as we discussed earlier, your dominant thoughts become your reality. So what are you thinking? What do you think? Because that's ultimately what's going to determine what you get back in life. But then the third part is that the DO in terms of do is also your desired outcome. So what you're thinking affects your desired outcome. So what do you think? Available now on Amazon and all good online bookstores.
Yes, love that. I was thinking if I cannot leave the interview right now. Otherwise, I would have shown a copy. I got it. Is there in my? You got it? Okay. Yeah, nice.
I wasn't ready for it, but there was one here.
Here we go. What do you think, guys? If you're watching the video, then you will see the copy of the book. Make sure that you get a copy of What Do You Think? Find on Amazon, Colin Symington Bailey. And there's going to be anyway a link as well in the show notes where you can get your book directly there. And a question I have for you, because a lot of people that are listening to this show Now they're interested in writing books. Definitely, they want to become an Amazon bestseller, a number one bestseller. So, how was the process for you of writing the book?
I'll be totally honest, it was quite a long, drawn out process. In fact, if I look at it in its entirety, it probably took me about 3 years to write the book. Now, those of you don't tune out now, there was a good part to it, is that when I started writing the book, I was still working full time in retail. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have, as we've already alluded, a lot of spare time. And again, what spare time I did have, I wanted to spend with my family. So it was a hobby. It was of interest, but I wasn't really committed to it. And there's a very apt quote from Kenneth Blanchard. He said, there's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in something, you'll do it when it's convenient. But when you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. And you'll accept no excuses, only results. So that's an important lesson in life as well. There's a lot of things that we're interested in, but it's about investing a commitment to getting things done. The true momentum or the acceleration actually took place once I quit my full-time job and made my hobby, my pastime, my coaching a full-time job. And in going coaching full-time, I had more time to focus on what it is I wanted to do rather than doing what I believed other people needed me to do in terms of working for somebody else and earning money for their pockets. I now work for myself. I have the balance and I had the time to do what was important to me. And I managed to finish the book within a month of going full-time as a coach. So it's about flipping the switch from being interested to being committed. But also in having the balance, you can have a much greater sense of clarity and therefore perspective to get things done when you want to get them done rather than being somebody else's slave. That's probably not the right word. But it's true. It's the way I felt.
And regarding the the biggest lesson here that I'm seeing from what you said is focusing. You were able to focus all your energy writing the book. So then something that could take years and years and years, actually you put yourself down and in 1 month, boom, was done. Yeah. Otherwise could have taken easily another 3 years moving forward. So, and in terms of the Amazon best-selling process, how did you feel when you got your book at number one place on Amazon?
I've got to admit, it's a little bit narcissistic. It's a bit weird checking your phone every hour to check for updates. but the way that Amazon works is they update. You don't get the number. I suppose you could get the number one for the physical copy. It's the Kindle that went the Kindle version. It went to number one in the category of personal transformation, and not one of those wishy-washy. If you want to get an easy with number one, then choose a dodgy esoteric subject and put your book in there. And as long as no one else is selling, you're fine. But to me, it was quite important because one, it's a very hefty and weighty category, personal transformation. There's a lot of good books out there. But the way that the algorithm works is that you have to keep on checking it every hour to see whether you've got to number one, because the sales statistics update on an hourly basis. Mm-hmm. You don't get an email to say, congratulations, you've hit number one. It's a case of refreshing your phone every hour.
And then they're waiting for the screenshot. And it's like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So I must admit, it was actually quite fortunate. I hit number one on my birthday, which was a massive birthday present. But yeah, it was a case of literally every hour of my birthday, I'm refreshing the screen. So it was a little bit, it was one of my sleepless nights, but I think it was worth it in the end. And my intention wasn't to get the number one. It was just, I wanted to get my book out there. I've got a lot of information to share with people. And the book is one way of doing that. I mean, I have courses, I have seminars, I produce videos on a weekly basis. But the book is a way to get it all into a physical manifestation that you can keep on revisiting. It's just a way of sharing the information. It was a case of getting it out there. And to me, the biggest achievement was actually getting it published. Mm-hmm. The fact that the Kindle version got to number one was absolutely awesome. But I must admit that the biggest feeling I had of satisfaction was actually holding a physical copy in my hand before it even went on sale.
I remember.
But yeah, it was awesome. It was great. And it's something I can reflect back on.
Yeah.
But it's a title. It's a label. It doesn't make me any better, any worse, any more complete as a person. But it's a nice to have. But it wasn't the intention when I put it out there.
I remember when I had my first copy of my first book, 69 Buzzing Question to Turn Your Life Upside Down.
Awesome.
It was just the fact of having it there. Because I didn't online I didn't know about best-selling strategies. I didn't know about anything else when I published. For me, it was just I want to have a book. I want to have a book out. I want to sit down and do it in a month, and
Cool.
and I focus on making it happen. I think online I sold probably about 3 copies of that book, literally.
And you bought all three, yeah?
No. One was my mom.
Okay.
One was me, and the other one was actually a person I met on a networking event, which actually not only said I'm going to buy the book, but also bought the book.
Cool.
But then I sold about 2,000 copies of that during the seminars, because
Wow.
running so many events, call to action was buy my book, and
Yeah.
10 people here, 15 people there, 3 people there, 1 person to the other event. They all added up, and I was making a calculation. In the past few years, I sold about 2,000 of this book. So
Wow.
is I remember the feeling holding it. Is like yes, I
Yeah.
made it. I'm an author now.
Yeah,
So
definitely. It makes all the effort worthwhile. Definitely.
absolutely. Colin, one more question. I know that you have been working very closely with Bob Proctor as well,
Yeah.
and you are also one of the teachers of Bob Proctor's programs.
Yes.
What was your biggest lesson by working closely with Bob Proctor that you learned from him personally?
There's, to be totally honest, the biggest single thing in terms of information was knowing about what we call the stick person. Now, I can't go into too much detail with that.
Is that
now.
the one that you have in the flip chart behind you?
Yeah, it's one
I
of the versions of it.
That's
yes.
one of the version.
It's also on my YouTube channel. There is a video called The Stick Person, which explains it in a lot more detail. And I do go through it on my seminars as well. But to me, the ultimate, not just the information that you learn, it's the presence and it's the energy. And you can get, in this digital age, you can get information anywhere. On any website. You go into Google, any other search engine you may use of preference, and you can get any knowledge, any information you want at your fingertips. But it's about the energy that you give and the vibration that you share in terms of the personal interaction. And it just transcends that understanding. It takes it to a totally different level. It's like being a GTeX member. I could watch your videos. I can go onto the subscription site and drown myself in all the information that's on there. But when you actually physically attend it in person, it's a totally different level. And it's one of the lessons I've learned as well is when you actually attend seminars or live events or meet people in person, it's no substitute whatsoever from studying them or researching them or watching all their videos online. I've been watching Bob's videos for about 4 years, and just being in the same room just blew all that out of the water and took it to a totally different level. It's about the energy, it's about the authenticity, and it's about the confidence in yourself to be the person you want to be, your stripes, rather than being somebody else, because then that message gets lost in translation. So the energy that he puts out, his authenticity, his transparency, but his passion in person is, you've got to experience it to believe it. And it's not like interacting over different continents. It's being in the same room. It's awesome.
I know that you're going to also to be part, well, by the time this interview is published, that's going to be past. But there is on the 7th of May, a day called Winspiration Day, which is also endorsed by Bob Proctor as well. And both of us, we will be in the roster of the speakers and contributors.
Oh, yeah.
Sharing that message with Bob Proctor and a lot of other influential speakers. So well done for that, man. And
thank you.
You're welcome, buddy. So now, before we wrap up, what I would love to ask you is something about GTeX. Why did you decide to become a GTeX Lifetime member?
It's similar to what I've just spoken about with Bob.
Right.
I signed up to the online portal. The main reason I got interested in the first place was about the wealth of information and learning from experience. Just like I've got 26 years of getting out of retail and hospitality, you've got the 7 years, I believe it is now, of running GTeX in terms of the systems, the strategies, and it's about shortening that journey. As Tony Robbins said, if you want to be successful, find someone who's already done or is doing what it is that you want to do, model them, and you'll get the same results. So I want your results. I want your systems. I want your strategies. And yes, I signed up for the monthly membership site, and there's a hell of a lot of information on there. I still haven't covered all of it, but you then go to a live event. You then have that personal interaction, that community, that family. And I don't often use the word family. It is important to me, and that's exactly what this is. It's a family. It's the community. It's being able to reach out to anybody and getting the answer you want, boom, at your fingertips. There's so many different experts out there who are willing to contribute and help out. But there's also that wealth of information that's available personally. Whenever you're stuck or you need a hand or just a little bit of a nudge or a kick in the right direction, there's always somebody out there to do it. And it might not be you or Ben or any of the guys at the top, but within the pool of experts that we have in the Lifetime community, there is always someone out there willing to help someone else, and you pay it forward. You reap what you sow, and it's that sense of community, not just in terms of the strategy and knowing what it is that I need to do. I've got the systems, I've got the strategies, I have a signature program. I didn't have any of those before I joined GTeX, but I could have got those by going to a course. I've got the community and I've got a pool of resources. And since joining GTeX, I've got my signature program. I've got seminars lined up. I'm selling from the stage, and I'm a #1 best-selling published author. It's not just the feeling of the community, but it's the results that accountability and community helps you to deliver.
Thanks, man.
So it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Make me emotional now. Guys, thank you.
I just don't want a paper voucher.
No, we have this running joke because at one of our seminars, he won a voucher, a paper voucher.
Two seminars?
Two seminars actually won a paper voucher for £100 off. So that becomes a running joke because we didn't have any voucher prepared. So literally, I ripped a piece of paper, wrote up £100, and I gave it to him. So guys, if you're interested about knowing more about becoming a Lifetime members, there is a link here in the show notes. Click the link, you will see more information, and then you can book a call so then we can have a chat about it if that's the right thing for you. So Colin, now it's time to wrap up, and it's been a great interview. It's been an awesome interview.
No, thank you. My pleasure, man.
We covered
Thanks for having me.
Well, if I think about what we covered from the beginning, we covered the power of thoughts, how we can really create a balanced life, your learnings from writing a book and becoming a best-selling author. So there is a lot that people can learn from you. So if someone wants to keep that learning, to keep learning from you, to keep in contact with you, to find out about you, get your book. What's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to do it is probably through my website, because that basically is the funnel that leads off to everywhere else. It's a nice hub to start from. On my website, which is CSB Coaching, which is essentially my name, Colin Symington Bailey. So it's CS-B Coaching, csbcoaching.com. On there, you'll find links to my book. You can search my book on Amazon. It's there. There's also details around the art of balanced living. There's links to my YouTube channels. Everything you can find through there. You can follow me on Facebook. I have a CSB coaching community called The Art of Balanced Living. I've got a business page, CSB Coaching, but essentially instead of going off in all sorts of different directions, straight to the website and everything you need will be there. I do also do seminars, mainly based around the Watford area. So again, have a look out for me through Eventbrite. They're always advertised on Eventbrite. And
so
come and meet me in person. UK. There's a Watford somewhere else?
Well, I don't know, but we have people in more than 40 countries listening to this show.
Cool. So if you want to come over, then
there might be another Watford somewhere else.
The events are free, but you'd have to sort out your own airfare.
Fantastic. So guys, cs-bcoaching.com. You will find also the link in the show notes. So make sure that you get in touch with Colin and get his book, because it's really powerful. And in particular, if you are struggling with this work-life balance, you want to live a balanced life, then he is the person for you. Get in touch with him.
It took me 26 years. It doesn't have to take you that long. Trust me.
Exactly. Right? Thank you, Colin. You've been amazing.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening or watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you subscribe right now to our podcast on the YouTube channel as well. So you click the subscribe button right now, and also leave us a review. Let us know what did you enjoy the most from this interview. And I'm going to pick the best review, of course, 5-star. Wink, wink. And I'm going to give you a shout out on the show, and I'm going to read it out. Thank you very much for joining today, and always remember that together we grow exponentially. Bye for now.
Bye bye.